小时候陪爸爸看电视的回忆，路曼一大空降绝对是我们的 Top 5之选。定量的历史课、袍泽之情，还有搭配每集需来一下的 pew pew。激情四射的战场画面，可能是小 Matt 我的重点。我以前呢叫不懂事的时候都这样分类：第一集在训练，第二集跳伞，后面有打炮；第三集呢城镇战，后面有坦克；第四集他们输了；第五集温特斯在冲刺；第7、8集好像很冷，第9集很多很瘦的人。最后第10集仗打完了，小屁孩的视角，以前真的都这样看。然后 DVD 都记得，那要跳几段加几倍快转，那就会有枪战。这真的是没有串流平台的淳朴年代啊！明显是到了后期再去重温旧作，才会意识到说，人家之所以堪称为2战经典影集的原因，探讨到了几乎士兵们在战场上的各个面向，而且对于细节的专注程度，我觉得更是后无来者。不管是讲医疗兵、牧师，还是狗屁驾驶兵，全部都有资料画面。我们今天打算拿温特斯大大在2000年初影集刚上架的一段段访问，来回顾影集的经典事件。Hello， 大家好，我是 Matt， 欢迎收看军事干片系列。一个讲政治军事比电玩还 bug 的那个男人，我们会来翻译一些国外影片，陪观众东干西干一点。这是我在过年呢想到的新系列。反正我平常呢就爱自己上 YouTube 看洋片，那就干脆呢花点时间上字幕翻译给大家，一个有福同享的概念。
You get on the ground, you get group of guys organized, you're trying to, get everybody together. The first thing depicted action that day in Band of Brothers is taking out the 105s. We've got a battery of 105s that's just shelling the hangout of our guys on the beach. You take a handful of guys and go up to take the 105s out.
7 guys, yes.
7 guys.
Right.
Against an entrenched German position of 4 105s.
Yeah.
Machine guns.
Right. It worked out to roughly 7, 8, 9, 10 more to every man that we had. It was hard to tell. They were in trenches, and it's a little hard to judge just how many men you were up to. I know that a unit for 105s, if you look at the table of contents in a German manual, and we didn't know this until after the war, but if you looked at a manual, you'll find that a manual for a 105 unit is about 130 men. Well, I'm not saying that we faced 130 men, because there was men that were support positions, ammunition carriers and rear echelon carriers. But the men that we were facing on the line, yes, it was about 7, 8, 9 men for everyone we had. But
这些在当老人家说话到一半是硬卡。访问者呢是前宾州众议员约翰 D. 佩恩，有点 random 所以这段访问的机缘，我猜呢是和温特斯是土生土长的宾州人有关。2001年呢也是80好几的老兵了，是老乡的怨姑吧，才给你一个督麦的机会。我今天故意严选2段有关他领导和带兵的风范，希望能渲染大家一下，好不好？看看人家一样也是26岁都干了些什么。第一 part 的内容呢，主要收录在第2集。温特斯带领一12人小队突袭德军火炮阵地，原先预估是只有2具对准犹他海滩的105毫米炮，结果发现的是被复杂的战壕系统所包覆的4挺巨根，同时还有1连的士兵驻扎于此，来自德军的第919师单兵旅约60人。设定好前提后，那我们就交给本尊来讲故事吧。
And that meant that I was taking them on one position at a time, and in doing that, I could use the few guns that I had to create superior firepower, and then rush one at a time, and that's how it worked out. The D Company representative men had been sent up before, as you know from reading the book. They tried to take on this position, but they tried to make a frontal attack, and that didn't go very far. But I had, before we kicked this thing off, I had gone off by myself and crawled up there close enough to scout it. And I thought I found the trench, and I found that I knew from training that take it on from the flank. This is part of your training. It is not something that you're dreaming up and creating on the spur of the moment. This is all part of the training that's kicking in. So this doesn't say that you're brilliant, you made a brilliant decision.
Well, it can't be too bad of a decision. It's still being taught, and
It is.
so it must have been, in my mind, a brilliant plan, brilliantly carried out, well executed. Your casualties were, yeah, I mean, this is unbelievable compared to the 60 to 70, 80 Germans that you were attacking in entrenched positions. I couldn't help but wonder whether Lipton had a second thought about being up in that tree and being exposed.
Yeah, he was supposed to protect the right flank. And sent him and Rennie out there to protect the right flank, and it ended up he crawled up this tree. As you go back there today and look at the tree is now 60 years old, you know, older than 60 years, and it's dead, and it's huge, it's big. But at the time he crawled up it, it was a young tree, and the branches were weak, so he had trouble getting up there with the branches bending and so forth. It was quite a job to get up there and get a position that he had observation out over the field.
Well, I don't think you give yourself enough credit, Dick, on the planning, and I don't think the movie depicted that you went up on your own, reconned the area, crawled back the trench.
Correct.
But a lot of that credit for the successful capture of those guns goes to your pre-planning, to your common sense, to your initiative, to your ability to command the troops. That particular event you were put in for the Medal of Honor for.
Yes.
And my understanding in reading the book was the only reason you didn't get it was because there was only one per division.
One per division, right. Well, as I go back, I give the credit to the training we had to prepare us for this, and the men that are with you. It's the same thing with the men. They were prepared, and so there's that relationship, close relationship we were talking about a few minutes ago, that bonding. Mm-hmm. And having gone through this training over this period of time, over and over again, you didn't have to stop and explain to them what you wanted. You told them what you want, and they immediately knew what you were driving at and what the job was to be. So here's where the training pays off.
Yeah, working together as a team.
Working
clicking,
together.
Everybody knows what's expected, what to do.
Everybody is doing his job.
Yeah, I like that part.
You don't do it yourself. It takes everybody doing his job to get the thing done.
The team. I like the comment in the book where you could tell which man it was at night by the shadow or by their outline. That's how well you knew people.
Definitely.
And that's certainly that kind of training and expertise pays off.
Definitely.
好恐怖啊！光是晚上的倩影就能知道对方是谁，才刚空降至法国呢，就能感受到他临危不乱的带兵能力。在队伍之间穿梭，好像瞬间有了无敌星星，敌人的子弹也要靠边闪。这次夺取阵地的任务成功到被编入日后的教范中。原本506团长呢要推甄为温大大申请到荣誉勋章的登记，结果最后被降级成杰出服务10字勋章。因为当时呢依规定每个师只能被授予一副，算是美陆军呢仅次于荣誉勋章的第2高等殊荣，也是他老人家军旅职涯的最高峰，算是有点可惜吧。我觉得当访问者呢点出每一个师只能申请1份时，从他表情的依稀可以感受到心里还是觉得有点惋惜啊。真的是10年磨一剑呢，扎实的训练让你在场上直接靠肌肉记忆行事，也可以看得出温特斯谦逊的为人。主持人想往他脸上贴金，但最终他都说我归功于训练或团队。
But
影片大概到中间段，感谢观众朋友继续选择待在这一块隐秘境地，可以来工商一下频道18万首度推出的周边，拉个红飘带和狗牌热卖中，成为你的时尚配件呢，或代表你我奋斗快10年的纪念，数量有限，也不保证会再制，所以都欢迎到影片下方资讯栏的商城逛逛哦。第二个英勇带队事迹发生在荷兰，前面D-Day 那时候只是中尉儿，转眼间到了1944年10月，只过了2个暑假呢，我们的温特斯已准备接替营长的 XO 一职。通常要上校才能升任，但他当时只是可以对队友泼尿的上尉阶级，再证明了有仗打，你的等级也会跟着步步高升。
Chapter 9 in the book, Dick, talks about what I think was in my mind, your most heroic action in both the book and Band of Brothers. I think you should have gotten the Medal of Honor for the operation at the dike. I mean, I can't personally envision standing on top of an earthen dike and looking down on 100 SS troops, whether they were looking at me or not, they're down there, and you put your weapon at your hip and start firing, and they're firing back at you and scattering and running. You dump the first clip and put another one in. You dump the second clip, put another one in. What were you thinking? Because I have to be honest, I would have been going the other way behind that dirt bank. Now that's a difference in training, that's a difference in men, but clearly you were totally exposed to that enemy fire.
议员开门见山提到呢，这应该够格拿到荣誉勋章了吧？整段背景呢有被收录在电视剧的第5集交叉入口 Crossroad， 所以这边可以给大家一点背景资料。当时101空降师来到荷兰赖美根桥附近，属于前集呢市场花园行动的后续战斗。这集很贴心的是，故意以团长呢要温特斯写战斗日志为起头，所以不像以往剧情呢会依时间轴发展，而是让观众跟着他一边敲键盘，一边倒叙回忆稍早的故事。前面夜战是因为一支巡逻小队先遇袭，温特斯直接召集人马向那个传奇交叉入口挺进。听见 MG42 荼毒的声响，这离连指挥部那么近的巢穴势必要清楚。这边我觉得可以看得出小温的带兵实力又更上层楼，彼此的默契也培养了一段时间，乃至于你要瞄谁打谁都可以精准标记。我以为你在玩火线猎杀系列作品，一阵枪林弹雨下，确定把敌方机枪阵地给歼灭后，对方人也不敢示弱还击，后排已经安排好的迫击炮和机枪开始施予火力压制。异光淡然在草丛间跳动，好几次只差几公分就快打到主角了，真的有够命大。没有夜视镜凯瑞了，所以隔天一早又要出基地剿德军。温特斯带头冲锋，等到红色烟雾出现时，大伙再跟进哦。我说的够多了，所以接下去换我们的本尊老温接手吧。
I want to point out the guy that was standing up there in the dike that day at that particular moment is not the guy that you're talking to today. And it was in a mental state. I don't know how to explain it, but I've never was there before. Never been that condition since. But at that point, when I started that charge across the field, let me back off here from that. There's one thing here. If you remember when we went in to take care of the troops on Normandy, and we made a flanking attack, we were taking them on one at a time. And in this case, in the charge, we were making a frontal attack. There's quite a difference here. And there was no other way to do it. There was no hedgerows like we had in Normandy and so forth. You had to make a frontal attack. It was the only approach to it. But in making that decision, when I started out to run across there, I was running faster than I ever ran before in my life. I've never run that fast since. And the thing about it was everybody else was moving so slow. I couldn't understand it. My men were moving so slow, I couldn't understand it. I got up there and jumped up on the dike. as you're relating here. And as I look at the Germans down there and see in the position I'm in, I'm behind them, very luckily, just luck. But they're moving so slow. See, it's not only my men that are moving so slow, but the Germans are moving so slow. And I can't understand why they're moving so slow. I'm normal, but they're not. So in standing there, I'm in a different state of mind that I've ever been in before. Hope I never get there again. But I was that pumped up, that, I don't know how else to explain it. But as that pumped up, that they were moving slow and I was normal, and my men are very slow and getting up to me, because Lord dear, they're 100 yards behind. So that, hope that explains it in some sense.
It does. Were you cognizant of the fact that you were changing, cartridges? I mean, because it almost sounded in the book that it was just automatic.
It was automatic.
You were shooting, putting another one in, putting another one in.
It was automatic. There's one little memory. It's a memory worth sharing with you. And jumping up on the dike, as the picture points out, there's this young soldier right across the road from me. Actually, he was not out in the field like we show in the film. He was directly on the other side of that road, about 2 steps away, because it was just a narrow dirt road coming up from the river. And he was the outlook. He was their outpost. He was the guy who was supposed to be keeping his head up and keeping observation that somebody didn't pull a trick on him like we had just done. Somebody to come up and catch them while they're keeping their heads down from our covering fire. That was his job, to keep them informed. He didn't do it. He put his head down as well. And I came up directly across from him, eyeball to eyeball. And he was just as shocked as could be. I leveled off at him. And the thing that remembers, I can never forget, was he smiled. And as he smiled, I shot him.
当时真的可称作小温啊，是血气方刚的26岁，然后接受访问时已经80好几了，但是讲起故事来恍如隔日也啊。令我讶异的是，他在述说此射火机大赛时，我脑海中竟然可以完整地播送影集的画面，代表导演真的很遵照原著去拍摄。老温自己也承认这一次的正面突入，他进入了一种忘我的状态，好像他拥有了子弹时间，然后弟兄们跟上开火后，一切才又继续正常在 roll。的确，影集也将那段呈现的有如梦境般了，颜色对比好像过于高调了些，加上我们先前观众都知道，这都属于温特斯在球键盘的回响，所以似真似假，如梦初醒。尤其是最后看守的党卫军那抹微笑，更是为整集添加突兀感。我小时候看就闪过，这可能都是梦境的念头，没想到一切都是真的。要如何不运用台词来呈现主角的内心挣扎？如果是一般电视剧，肯定会有午夜梦回、突然惊醒、冒冷汗的桥段。但这影集没有走这老套路，导演选择让温特斯去法国休假时，明明该是升官好好休息的欢乐时刻，但是到哪里我都能看到你的脸，特别是电影狂晃又闪烁的安排，直接字面意义上的闪回去那段的不可磨灭的回忆。我们下次还可以再回来听老温爷爷讲古，应该也会让大家更想回去重温那经典2战迷你影集。发头的欢乐时刻总是过得特别快，我们每4到5天一定会上新片，所以都欢迎按订阅和开启小铃铛。还有EP 站抖内平台有快150位观众，让我持续大声。那边有荒废许久的 Discord 幕后花絮和直播给大家的 Big Shout Out， 性感周边红飘带和狗牌热卖中。想在新的一年防小人登大郎，请务必像我一样佩戴在身。购买链接会在影片资讯栏或置顶留言被我顶到最上面。 关于今天这2段访问的心得，都欢迎在下方留言分享。前个礼拜的留言我不一定会回复，但我真的都会看。所以画面大概先到这边，拜拜。
Don't have to answer the question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.